When Ozzy Osbourne starts "Mama, I'm Coming Home," his voice falters and the crowd goes silent. This 1991 hit was more than a song, it was a confession to the woman who kept him alive. That night, everyone saw its truth, and today, we're going to tell the story behind it.
Seems to be you could have been a better friend.
To understand this song, you need to know how bad things were for Ozzy in the late 80s. Ozzy Osbourne was a worldwide star. His concerts sold out stadiums, his music played on every rock radio station, but behind the stage, the Prince of Darkness was losing the most important battle of his life. Alcohol and drugs completely controlled his existence. We are not talking about occasional excesses. Ozzy drank for days on end without stopping. He lost consciousness. He forgot entire concerts. He woke up not knowing where he was or what he had done the night before. His friends and colleagues watched him deteriorate. Some tried to help, others simply walked away. But there was one person who could not give up, even if she wanted to: Sharon Osbourne. She was not just his wife, she was his manager, the architect of his solo career.
Say goodbye, everybody!
The mother of his 3 children. Sharon had been with Ozzy since 1979. When she met him as her father's client, the manager of Black Sabbath, she had seen him at his best and worst moments. And now she was watching him slowly kill himself. Sharon tried everything. Serious conversations, threats, pleas. Nothing worked. Ozzy promised to change, but the next day he was back to the same thing. The cycle repeated over and over, until the breaking point came. Sharon made the most difficult decision of her life. She gave Ozzy an ultimatum. Either he went to rehab, or their marriage was over. No more second chances. No more empty promises. And to make him understand she was serious, she threw him out of the house. Ozzy Osbourne, the rock star who had faced thousands of people on stages around the world, found himself completely alone, without Sharon, without his family. Facing the real possibility of losing everything that mattered to him, that was the wake-up call he needed. It was not the doctors, it was not the newspaper headlines, it was the possibility of losing Sharon forever. For the first time in years, Ozzy understood that if he did not change, he would die, and he would die alone.
Time's gone by, it seems to be you could have been.
Ozzy entered rehab in 1989. The process was brutal. Decades of abuse do not disappear easily. The withdrawal symptoms, the sleepless nights, facing all the demons he had been drowning with alcohol and drugs. But for the first time in a long time, Ozzy's mind began to clear. And when the noise finally stopped, a melody began to take shape in his head. It was different from anything he had done before. It was not aggressive or dark. It was melancholic, vulnerable, honest. Ozzy had carried that melody in his mind for a couple of years, but he had never found the time or mental clarity to finish it. Now, clean and sober, working on what would become the album No More Tears, he knew exactly what he wanted to do with that melody. He needed to turn it into a letter for Sharon. To write the lyrics, Ozzy called one of his closest friends in the rock world, Lemmy Kilmister, the legendary leader of Motorhead. Lemmy was known for his own excesses, but he was also an exceptional lyricist, direct, honest, without pretensions. Ozzy sat down with Lemmy and explained what he wanted to say. He talked about Sharon, about how she had been his salvation, about the separation, about the fear of losing her, about the promise to be a different man. Lemmy listened and then did something extraordinary. He wrote the complete lyrics in less than 2 hours. Times have changed and times are strange. Here I come, but I ain't the same.
Times have changed and times are strange.
Those lines perfectly captured what Ozzy felt. The man returning home was not the same one who had left. He had been broken, had hit rock bottom, and now he was rebuilding himself. Working with his guitarist, Zakk Wylde, Ozzy finally finished the song, and he gave it a title that would confuse many people: Mama, I'm Coming Home. Many assumed he was talking about his mother, but that was not the case. Mama was the nickname Ozzy used for Sharon. Every time he called from the road, at the end of every tour, he said those words, Mama, I'm coming home. It was his way of telling her he was returning to her, to the place where he belonged, to the only home that really mattered. This song was a musical promise, an oath that this time would be different. Mama, I'm Coming Home was released as a single in 1991 and became Ozzy's only solo hit to reach the top 40 on the Billboard charts, reaching number 28. It also reached number 2 on the rock charts. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Heavy metal fans, accustomed to the wild and aggressive Ozzy, heard this ballad and connected with it in a completely different way. It was not just music, it was pure emotion. And then something unexpected happened. 1991 was the year of the first Gulf War. Thousands of American soldiers were deployed in the Middle East, far from their families. Many of those soldiers were Ozzy fans. And when they heard Mama, I'm Coming Home, the song took on a completely new meaning for them. They did not hear a song about rehab or about a rock star's marriage. They heard their own feelings, their desire to return home, to hug their wives, girlfriends, mothers. Soldiers began sending that song to their loved ones. It became an unofficial anthem for troops abroad.
Selfish love, yeah, we're both alone.
Years later, Ozzy would comment in surprise, "We heard that the GIs were sending that song to their wives. Soldiers still love that song." The song had transcended its original purpose. It had become something universal. At concerts, Mama, I'm Coming Home created a special moment every night. Fans who had been jumping and screaming throughout the show would stop. They lit their lighters, then their phones. Some cried openly. But for Ozzy, the song became even more personal and painful in the early 2000s when Sharon was diagnosed with colon cancer.
I don't care about the sunshine.
Imagine having to sing that song every night while your wife fights for her life. Every verse became a plea. Every I'm Coming Home felt like a desperate promise. Ozzy admitted that there were nights when he could barely finish the song without breaking down completely. The song he had written as a promise to return to Sharon was now a plea for her to still be there when he returned. Sharon survived cancer, and for more than 2 decades after, every time Ozzy sang that song, it was a reminder of everything they had overcome together.
It hurts so bad, it's been so long.
Fast forward to July 2025, Birmingham, England. The city where it all began for Ozzy Osbourne. Black Sabbath had announced their definitive farewell tour. For Ozzy, who had been diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2003, each performance was a monumental physical challenge. The tremors, the stiffness, the difficulty moving.
I could right, I could wrong.
But Ozzy insisted on doing this final tour, one last chance to say goodbye to the fans who had followed him for over 5 decades. The concert in Birmingham was especially emotional. It was his hometown, the place where he had grown up, where he had formed Black Sabbath, where he had dreamed of being a musician without ever imagining the life he would have. And when it came time to sing Mama, I'm Coming Home, something changed in the atmosphere of the stadium. Ozzy began to sing, but his voice sounded different, more fragile, more loaded with emotion. And as he sang, tears began to roll down his face. They were not tears of simple sadness. They were tears of everything, of gratitude, of love, of farewell. Sharon was in the audience, as she had been at thousands of concerts before, watching him, supporting him, being his anchor, as she had always been. And in that moment, everyone in that stadium understood that Ozzy was not just singing a song. He was fulfilling the promise he had made 34 years earlier. He was saying goodbye. He was giving thanks. The footage from that performance went viral. Millions of people around the world saw the Prince of Darkness, the man who had defied everything and everyone, cry openly while singing about coming home. 2 weeks after that tour, Ozzy Osbourne passed away. He did not die from an overdose, as many had predicted in the 80s. He did not die in a wild accident or scandalous circumstances. He died in peace, surrounded by his family, having lived much longer than anyone thought possible. He had come home for the last time, and he had kept the promise he made to Sharon in 1991. He had changed. He had been better. He had lived. Mama, I'm Coming Home is not Ozzy Osbourne's most famous song. Crazy Train and Paranoid will probably always be more recognized, but it is his most honest song. It is proof that even the wildest man in rock and roll has a home he wants to return to. Behind the public image and scandalous stories, there was a vulnerable human being who needed love and redemption. The song has become an anthem for millions, for soldiers returning from war, for people in recovery, for anyone who has been lost and found their way back. Have you ever had a song that felt like it was written just for you?
Thank you.